from YGRL. And today I am with Faye, the Lone Star Warrior. Faye, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for introducing me again.
No, well, you never know. There might be somebody brand spanking new who has no idea who you are. And then we have a very
friends.
I know.
I'm telling you.
I know. And then we have a very special guest today. This is Matthew Skidmore, Matt, from famous to us, the Zach and Matt show on YouTube and other places. But Matt, hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Annette and Faye? Thank you very much for having me on.
We are doing well.
So we are really excited to meet you. It's sort of our first time meeting you because even though we kind of know we know you from your own program, the Zach and Matt show. You're super famous among our community of Yin Gang people. And I know in fan base, everybody knows, your show. But not everybody has had a chance to see an interview with you and hear more about, who you are as a person. So thanks for joining us.
No, thank you. I'm excited to talk to you guys. Looking forward to an interesting conversation. And hello, Zephyr.
Yeah. Yep, that's Zephyr behind me. He's really excited today. So we've been having like a tornado watch all day. And now we are finally relaxed because the tornado has passed us.
Where are you in like are you in like the plains?
We are in East Texas.
Or maybe it's because the tornado went away and died and went back in the sky.
Maybe so, but we're a little traumatized from last year's tornado. We were in a tornado where we were in the Caddo Mounds Visitor Center at the Caddo Mounds Historical Site, and they were having a special event that day. It was April 13th, a day that goes down in infamy for me and Zephyr. And there was a tornado that passed. There were two tornadoes actually that passed through the town, and one of them ripped off the roof in the building that we were in.
Oh.
And so when the tornado passed, we looked up and it was like a gaping hole up in the ceiling. And luckily we were not hurt at all, but there were some who were pretty badly injured. So
That's
friends with a lot of
very
people.
Scary.
Yeah, we went through like this whole thing, and then now we're still friends with a lot of them. So yeah, when a tornado day kind of passes, it's awful. And we're in East Texas, in Palestine, Texas, which is they consider the piney woods.
Even more people might die from black holes.
What? All right, it's gonna be one of those days apparently. Zephyr's stuck inside with me, and he's supposed to be eating. He doesn't want to.
He likes the camera too much.
So I want to know more about Matt, though. So Matt, tell us about you. Like, where do you live? What is your background? How did you get here?
Well, I live in Maryland and I'm 20 years old, and I started this channel, the Zach and Matt Show, with my lifelong friend Zach last March. And originally we weren't planning on becoming, I guess, like a hub for Andrew Yang content, but kind of our original plan was to cover the 2020 Democratic primary. And just as we went along, we realized that there was kind of one candidate who was a little bit different from all the rest. And our channel kind of just unexpectedly turned into an Andrew Yang, like Yang Gang channel. And it kind of just took off from there. People liked the content that we put up. I think people like that we put up stuff in a timely manner, and our channel grew and kind of brings us to where we are today. Before getting into YouTube, I started a business when I was 15 years old, selling products online, and it peaked last spring. I have a warehouse. I still have a warehouse with I had 6 employees working for me. I'm down to 1 now. My older brother runs the business for me. So that way I can kind of be a full-time Yang Ganger. And But I'm fortunate to be in that position because it allows me to have the free time to do this all day, and my brother runs my business, and all is working out well.
Very good.
So Bert wants to say hi to you, and so does Fred. Fred has a podcast of his own. He's called Fred Ader's Front Porch Podcast, and Burke is one of our team, but he is busy running as the for state assembly, and
Is
he's
that,
hoping to maybe sometime have a conversation with you.
Is that Burke for Yang?
Definitely sit down. Burke
Yeah.
for Yang on Twitter.
What's
So
up,
you've
Burke? I think I've met
Yes,
Burke
there you
before.
go.
Yeah.
Fred says Zephyr's right. I love that. So, Matt, I was wondering, the thing, okay, when I asked you if you would come over to talk to us, the reason was you had sent out like a general ask me any type of tweet on Twitter.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe you could come and let us ask you anything.
Yeah, no, I'm down. Any question goes. I might not answer some of them. They're scary.
My biggest question has been, how the heck do you get your information up online so quickly? And so, like, we would see the clips of everything that Andrew had said the night before on the debate, like the night with, it was with speed and precision, and it's like all of a sudden it would appear on your site. How are you able to do that without the copyright and all these issues that, I mean, we were shut down once when we tried to, we were live streaming a debate, and Facebook came and shut us down. Who was it? Shannon or something. We were wondering, how do you do that? Amazing.
Yeah. Well, it all starts with so I guess the first thing I realized on YouTube, if you're not first, you're last, right? So, which people, they want to see content quickly and they want to see it put up quickly. So my whole thinking was, okay, how can I get the videos from when they air to then be up on YouTube for tens of thousands of people to watch in the fastest manner possible? And that was only further, the importance of that was only further brought on by the fact that the media, when Andrew was running, they kind of blacked out his campaign, and a lot of times they'd have him on for a 10-minute interview like on cable news or something, and then they wouldn't even upload it to their channel. So it makes it harder for the content to spread on the digital side. And so the way I decided to try to get it up as fast as possible is first of all, you have to know when everything's going to happen, right? So that way you can record it live. And the one way to do that is I have like Twitter notifications on for like every single person in the Yang gang who I think gives out like timely information. Like obviously like Andrew Yang, Zach Grom, and Eric Sanchez, all those guys, as well as, Humanity for Yang, so kind of like all the different groups. And then if you're really paying attention, you can get a good idea of when he's going on and when he's going to get interviewed. Or people even like message me and be like, yo, Yang's about to be on the show, blah, blah, blah. Like, you got to record it. And then so as long as I know it's going to happen, I can just record it live and then quickly get it into, I use Adobe Premiere to edit. And I've really kind of gotten a system down in terms of like getting the video on and then adjusting the audio and doing the quick cutting and throwing on an outro and then rendering it all like really quickly. And then while it's rendering, I'll start work on a thumbnail that looks good. And usually, I mean, sometimes it depends how long the video is, because then it's just it's how long it takes to render the video and how long it takes to upload it to YouTube, which is based on your internet connection. So as long as, if the video is short, it could be up within like 20-25 minutes after uploading. And like the debates you mentioned, the way I would do those is I would cut the clips as the debates were happening. So anytime Andrew speaks, would record it, then stop recording, do all the work to cut it out, and then immediately once Andrew gives his closing statement at the debate, I already have my whole video pretty much done, and then I just render and upload it, and 15 minutes after the debate, it's already up. And to your last question in terms of like copyright issues and how to get around that, we haven't really gotten around it because like CNN, for example, they go in and copyright claim like every video that has to do with them, which they rightfully should. It's their content. What I appreciate about like CNN, for example, is what they'll do is they will claim the video as copyright, but then they'll just take the ad revenue and they'll leave it up on YouTube, which is cool because then the message still gets to spread everywhere rather than nobody being able to hear it at all, unless, of course, you are fortunate enough to have cable or something like that. So, and I don't even have cable. I use a YouTube TV and Hulu and stuff like that.
So basically, you do so well that CNN get the revenue from this guy. You're gonna let him keep doing it.
Pretty much.
It's amazing.
I pretty much
do such a good job with it. It's amazing.
I make them money. I help them out. But
I mean,
yeah.
Put the money
every time. It's almost impossible.
And I watch everyone.
Well, I'm gonna let Annette talk. Here we go.
I watch every single one of your videos till the very, very end because of the outro. Put the money in our hands.
Yeah.
And then it just gets stuck in my head over and over. I watch it all the way through to the very end.
That's what I like to hear. Because then it'll,
okay, so Burke is saying that he would love to be a guest on your show to talk about his campaign in Nevada. So
yeah, Burke.
You guys should
hit me up on Twitter or email me at zachandmattshow@gmail.com and I'll get back to you.
All right. Does anybody else have if any of the viewers have questions, put them out there and I'll put them up on the screen.
There you go. So that's what Matt is here to do, is talk to us and get to know us. So Matt, we heard that Zach has to go and do his own thing now. He's working at school or something like that.
Yeah, ever since January, Zach's been really focused on school. Kind of just he was like it's kind of referring back to in the beginning. Like I don't think either of us ever saw our channel reaching like the size or the audience it has in terms of viewership and engagement and all that. And by the fall, it already kind of developed into a full-time job in terms of time. And with Zach being in school, his third year of college, you just have to kind of think about your priorities. And like, there's all these conspiracy theories, like, oh, Zach became a burner, or like, it's really no. It's just it's a huge commitment to run this, and it stresses you out. But Zach's still in the wings, you know. Maybe when school gets lighter. I don't know how college goes. I think he was having a rough time balancing school with the videos and everything. So he just had to make a decision.
Like the news cycle is so unrelenting. I mean, things are happening all day long, and it's amazing that you're able to catch so many of the important moments for us. I mean, I almost feel like I can relax because somebody else is doing that. And I know when I come back at whenever is convenient for me, you know, Zach and Matt will have already compiled everything I need to know today, you know, in terms of things that Gang is going to be interested in for sure. And that's just, you know, that's a really big job, and I really appreciate you. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I enjoy it 100%. So I'm very happy to do it. And I'm not in school or anything, so I have the time.
Right. So Patrick Dunn has a question. How did Matt decide he wanted to spend most of last year following Yang around the country? I would like to know that too. That's a great question.
That's a good question. I think what it was there was the Yangapalooza event. Was it November last year? and I wanted to go, and I remember asking Zach to go if he wanted to go to Iowa, and he's like, "Well, why would I want to go to Iowa like the middle of the winter for like 2 days or 3 days?" And I was like, "Come on, it'd be so much fun! Like we got to go." But ultimately Zach didn't, so I didn't, and then was able to convince Zach. Then they had this Bet on Yang event in Las Vegas, and sorry, I think I heard knocking on my door and it threw me off. I can't tell because of the headphones. You know what I mean? They had this Bet on Yang thing in Las Vegas, and I was able to convince Zach to go with me, and I went to that, and I just really enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed being able to experience everything, meet so many people. You get to like hang out afterwards with people at the events, and then. Is like maybe a few weeks later, I went to Chicago and kind of the same thing happened, except this time, there is knocking on my door. I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Hold it down. When you're live streaming, you pretty much have to deal with life as it comes, including when Zephyr decides to jump off or make a giant exclamation about something.
For me, my cats will come and walk right up on my desk, right in front of the camera, or like walk across my keyboard. Cats are good for that.
Well, cats are good for so much. They make you feel very, I don't know, they're very comforting when they purr. That purr, it's something about it.
It has been scientifically proven that if you like a cat's purr can I think it slows your heart rate and like literally like physically calms you.
Hey, sorry about that.
Yeah. No worries.
All right, I was talking about Las Vegas. I decided
okay.
So then I went to Chicago, and except this was the first time I'd ever done like live streams where I cover like going to the event, like just from like leaving my hotel to driving over to it and like going from place to place, and it's all on live stream, and it's really fun. And I kind of decided like right after that, I was like, I don't know, I just didn't want to. I was tired of sitting behind the computer and watching everything happen rather than being there and being able to experience and be part of it myself. So after that, I kind of just decided like, screw it, I'm gonna go on the road. And the first big thing I did was Andrew had this Iowa bus tour in early December, and I went with Fred the Felon in his truck for 6 days driving. We went to every single event, and I guess I fell in love with the live stream life on the campaign trail.
That's awesome. All right, so Fred has a question.
Live streaming. I think I heard that on Patrick.
Yeah.
Go ahead and ask the question at this filling time.
But wait, no, that's okay. But Fred, I'm going to skip your question for just a second because there's a question from YouTube that is a good follow-up question to what we were just talking about. So I'll come right back to yours in a second, Fred. All right. So Humanity Forward Videos wants to know, do you plan on following Yang again if he runs for mayor or president in 2024?
Absolutely. And I'm really excited to do so. Hopefully again in the future. I have my friend named Mark. He's like graduating high school this year, and our plan is if Yang runs for New York City mayor, we're gonna go get like a Airbnb or something that's meant for like 4 people, but we're gonna pack it full of like 12 people to make it affordable, and then we're gonna campaign for Yang 24/7 because we're out of our minds. Just kidding. But and then no, just in terms of 2024. In terms of 2024, I would want to cover, if there's a Yang 2024 campaign, I'd want to cover the whole campaign like through live streams from start to finish, which would be a huge commitment, but I think it would be a lot of fun and would be totally worth it. And a lot can change in a few years, like with my life and where I'm at. So no guarantees, but that's what I want to do as of the present moment.
Right
so if
on.
live streaming, still be doing the other videos where you kind of get all the news and put them up as quickly as possible?
Yep. That's that'll always be, I think, a function for the channel until if and when just regular media outlets upload their content that When Yang's on just to YouTube, because YouTube is like, I think it's like second or third most visited website in the world. There's the amount of, it's like 90% of people between like the ages of like 17 and like 35 use YouTube on a regular basis. So it's like an incredible platform to reach so many different people.
For sure. Okay, so here's Fred's question.
Okay, and Annette is also trying to put our videos on YouTube, right? Are you streaming right now to YouTube as well?
I am not.
I am currently
I'm asking
streaming.
Annette.
Oh, okay.
I'm streaming on YouTube and Facebook on the Yang Gang Report, and then I have a watch party going on my personal timeline also on Facebook. So I've got it going in 3 different places, and then I shared it in public fan base as well. So it's kind of out there.
Yeah, so we've had a problem in the past. Go ahead.
I only have 25 subscribers on my Annette the Peacemaker channel. So we need to do something about that. Like, we need to send some people over to my YouTube channel and build that up a little bit. And
yeah, come on, everyone who's watching, subscribe right now. Yang Gang.
Annette, we actually, I think you just started your channel, and prior to occasionally up there. So, this is really new for us because Annette just got her, ability to stream to 2 places at once. This has been a real problem for us. Like, we would have a great Facebook video and we couldn't share it except on Facebook. And a lot of people didn't want to be on Facebook, unfortunately. So it's been difficult, but we are now going to, be able to be accessed on YouTube as well. So.
Yeah, I see someone just asked for the YouTube link in chat. I'll copy and paste it and give it to him. Oh, wait.
Oh, are you on?
That's awesome. Thank you.
Or I can throw it in the private.
I don't actually know what it is yet. You are all ahead of me on this. I heard Fred had a question, so I'm going to let Annette read that one out or put it up on.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were ready for that yet. So here we go.
Yeah.
We are changing topics. Fred says that he'd be interested in your thoughts on those protesting to open the country.
I think it's a good question. My thoughts on the protesters that are opening up the country is, I think that there's, I think basically with how this is being played out in the media in terms of kind of saying like, oh, there's this crazy segment of people and they want to reopen the country, and they're like, I was watching the other day on CNN, Don Lemon was doing this clip where he was talking about all the protesters, and he said like, oh, all these people, they just want to go out and like get a haircut and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, that isn't what it is. It's what people, when there's like 22 million people suddenly unemployed, and they can't, as we know, as being like Andrew Yang supporters, in terms of 78% of Americans already couldn't pay their bills, 50% already couldn't afford an unexpected $400 bill. So all these people that are suddenly out of work, they're screwed. So what are they going to do? It's kind of like everything Andrew talked about. When people get desperate, they do desperate things. When people are facing financial insecurity, their IQ lowers by a whole standard deviation. So people may do things where, I think the majority of American people agree that we need to have social distancing in place and not reopen the country yet until things have settled down more. But I think that the concerns that the protesters have are justified. And I don't think that calling them as like, oh, they're just Trumpers or crazy people is going to actually solve the problem. I think it's actually a great reason that we should have universal basic income, because these people, if they had UBI, they'd be less likely to be going out and putting themselves or other people at risk doing these protests. And I just think like between like I don't know. I was kind of just disappointed with Don Lemon's comments about it on CNN, and I assume if that's how he feels about it, that's how like the general media consensus is about it. I think people have a right to be angry.
So we have another comment here by Rad Max. Says they are claiming my body, my choice, but it's not true. They could carry it and be asymptomatic as others. So I think for me, it's like, yeah, the coronavirus killed her. So we're not talking about something where there's no danger. And they've been saying at the beginning, they've been saying, oh, you know, there were all these cases of flu and people die from that every year. We didn't shut down the country and so forth. And then now they say, you know, well, there are all these things that people die from, you know, car accidents, shut down the country. But this is something that's completely, these are deaths that are preventable if we were just prepared to actually care for people like in a normal situation. We are not prepared for, you know, running out of hospital beds. And it's not only people who get the virus who are going to die, but people who are like, you know, maybe in there trying to give birth to a baby. You don't get to choose, you know, the baby's coming. You know, there's people who are in the hospital because of other illnesses and they are going to be affected. So the question is right now, does that fit into the you know, the solutions that we should be having?
In terms of the solutions, in terms of reopening the economy, or?
Well, yeah, I feel like opening up the economy is not a necessary, as we know that we do it with UBI. We can prevent people, you know, falling into economic despair if we would just the UBI and start, you know, giving the money to people.
Yeah.
So like I was talking to a friend. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking about.
You said you were talking to a friend?
I think it's more. Oh, I was just going to say real quick. I think it's more than like they just need more. Part of it is that they feel like they need a haircut because it's normal. They want to feel like something normal is happening. I was a hairstylist for 30 plus years. So I understand that connection to, I saw tons of little cardboard signs saying I need a dang haircut. And like, I felt that, you know, like I know how much people need that, right? Or they think they do. They think they need that. And so right now, everything is just like the world is just blown up and everything's just insane. And that would be one thing that would make them just feel like normal. Right. But what they're not understanding is that the hairstylist has to actually physically touch them. We have to stand like we are like right in your face. We have to touch you. And little kids with their snot all over the place and they spit and stuff, like, you know, like, man, and people aren't always clean. And so at first, like I felt their side of it. I really felt their side of it there. But then I felt my side of it after 30 years of being spit on and snotted on and all of that. And I'm like, nah, man, my life is worth more than your haircut.
Yeah.
So, and I'm immunocompromised. I'm a cancer survivor. So I'm high risk because I'm a terminal cancer survivor.
So there's people who want to make it back to normal, but it's not a normal time. And the deaths that we're going to experience are probably going to be like, you know, those are extra deaths on top of the deaths that we normally have. It's not like, oh, if we don't, you know, and in fact, I wonder if coronavirus and people traveling so much is actually saving us from accidents. A lot of these other things that we were, you know, that were causing deaths. Actually, probably today is Earth Day, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
it is.
Earth Day, it's the same thing. It's like we're saving it right now by not using as much gas oil. I saw that oil went into negative territory yesterday. So
yep.
Yeah. and also like air pollution quality is down, is better. And I just wanted to say that on my watch party, there's a comment that I wanted to point out. Ryan Mulholland says a lot of these people who have protested called it a hoax or said it was fake have been infected or died from COVID. How ironic.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Darwinism argument is really sad for me because I don't want to hear that. You know, I don't want people injure themselves or get into high risk because of ignorance about the real dangers of COVID.
Yeah.
So anyway, I want to bring it back to Matt because I think Matt had some more to say about that.
Yeah, well, I think on that last point that you mentioned, just in terms of like people who straight up don't even believe that like coronavirus is a real thing, it makes you have to ask yourself, why is our country even in a position where so many people don't trust the basic information that's coming out of our institutions, whether it be the media, whether it be Trump, whether it be the CDC, whoever it is. So where our country is literally in a place where people don't know who to trust and what to trust. And what I don't like about the current situation is just, it seems like everyone's just trying to find someone to blame rather than trying to come up with a solution. And I just think like when Andrew talked about automation and how, truckers would do protests on the highways and there would be just people would just be driven to do crazy-ish things. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing, because everything that he was talking about with automation and artificial intelligence happening over a 10 or 20 year timeline is now happening in a 10-week timeline. So it's really the problems are a lot deeper than just the usual kind of like partisan rhetoric. I feel like that comes out of the different institutions, and it's disappointing as a society to see that. And I think people, I feel like I'm sounding like Andrew here, but I feel like universal basic income is kind of like the answer to a lot of these issues.
I agree with you.
I don't know necessarily in terms of like trying to just have people be able to have basic trust in the news media. I think I don't know how to solve that one. I think a part of it again is like there definitely are people who are like holding up signs saying like I just want to get a damn haircut, but there's also millions of people who are suddenly starving. Like if you look at the pictures of the food banks and stuff, and if you've been inside for a month and your job got taken from you, you use your subjective view of your own life saying like, oh, well, I don't know anybody who got infected, so this must not be a real thing. And then next thing you know,
Well, next you know, our old buddy Daniel Arizona is here.
Hello, Daniel.
So are you getting that Bloomberg money yet? Because you have some major talent over there on your show. So
no, not the Bloomberg dollars.
You're growing your media empire. Very impressed over there. How do you get the Andrew Yang footage like right off the bat?
I answered that one. Question? Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Annette Faye was one step ahead of you.
Do you have your own company here? Did you incorporate and everything, or what's going on here?
Zach and Matt Show is not incorporated, but
okay.
It depends. Depends how you want to get.
Okay, well,
I have an S corporation for my other business, and technically, if I wanted to, I could just wrap it up under that.
Do you do like consulting and stuff for YouTube now? Because you're getting into that echelon of wisdom over here.
No, because I don't like doing consulting. Because one, I feel like it's like selling out, and two, in terms of like same thing like with Amazon or not. Well, that's like the main platform I sell products online in. As my business, the other business is like people be like, oh, you should like make courses and stuff on like how to sell it. I'm like, well, I'm not going to give away the secrets to how to, because I still run the business and I still run the channel, so I'm protectable.
So I actually invited Daniel because I heard that the two of you had met, and that you were both present on the day that Andrew Yang suspended his campaign, on that super, super sad day. Is that true?
Yeah, I was holding Matt, making sure he didn't cry. I was massaging his head.
I cried like a baby.
So Daniel, you were with me the night that Yang suspended, and then you were also with me the day that me and Zach first met Andrew at the Philadelphia rally.
Okay. Yes, I was there at the Philadelphia rally meeting Zach and Matt.
Yeah.
So awesome
you brought us. You were there in the beginning and the end. Full circle.
So,
but you had already done some shows, right? By the time I met you, because I'd seen you.
So
yeah,
that's like celebrities.
So Daniel says, or Daniel also went out on the road and followed Yang around, and he has a YouTube channel called American Job Factory. No?
Yes. Not as great as the Zach and Matt show, but I'm working on it.
It's too nice, Daniel.
Everybody watching this right now, go subscribe to Daniel's channel, American Jobs Factory, and let's give him some love, because he also. So Daniel, people that might not know you, why don't you give us a little rundown of who you are and what you did, and your little traveling around and what you're doing now. Really, what you're doing now, because that's cool.
Okay, so I just came on the show quickly to give Matt a hard time. So I think I've accomplished that. Number one. And to add comic relief, because, it's important for any show to have some comic relief. But secondly, yes, I have my channel. I'm working on doing more videos and getting my skills up, like Matt over here. Is he over here, or is he? Yeah, anyway. And then I just wrote a book called The New Leaders Are Yang Gang. And so I'm promoting the book. Basically, it's just behind the scenes, my journey with the campaign and everything that happened, with a lot of my opinion as what went wrong and what went right and things like that. So those two things, the book and give Matt a hard time. So that's why I'm here.
I like being given a hard time. So thanks, Daniel.
You're welcome.
Well, you kind of dropped in on a kind of a heavy topic. So it was
I know,
really
that's
nice
why I need to break it up. It was like too heavy.
Yeah, we were in the middle of trying to talk about, yes, that's true, Daniel. Another Daniel is here, Dan Larson from Montana, who's running for the senator in Montana and he is saying that you did some great radio in Alaska. How I first heard of the American Jobs Factory was I saw your interview with some people about UBI in Alaska.
Yeah, right now I need to one up myself, because that's my claim to fame, it seems like, at this point, is I went to Alaska and interviewed people. And I'm glad I did it, because it was a good time, and I think it is like the best part maybe of my channel so far. So yeah, I got to work on topping that at this point.
So what do you think about opening up the country right now? Because a lot of people are protesting that's what they want to do, because they believe that the economic, stresses are much worse than the actual problems of coronavirus. What do you think?
So my theory is that, we're supposed to be sheltering in place, and I feel like at some point we're going to shelter on the go with having like really good protective clothing, and even like better masks than like a cloth mask, and people will be really suited up to go back to work. I mean, in China, they're manufacturing like basically clean suits for businesses so they can reopen. And as soon as the government kind of gets their act together, I believe they're going to put like some kind of thing out there saying, you can go back to work as long as your company provides clean suits and masks and protective goggles or whatever. And the protesters would have a lot more sway, I think, if they were wearing masks and protective gear and out there saying, just put us back to work, we'll wear our protective gear, let's do this. But, of course, people are just...
That's what I saw. Yeah, I saw Ben Shapiro say that, like, if you guys are going to protest, at least do it without seeming totally, completely reckless. And at least, do the social distancing while you're doing that. And do some, and put your masks on, do a few basic protections.
Yeah. So that's my take. And then
I think that there's going to be like whole fashion lines of protective clothing out, and you're going to have like designer masks. I've made like 3 or 4 different styles of masks. I'm totally getting into the mask making thing, and I'm going to figure out how to use my sewing machine that I've never used before. And I'm going to design something for the Corona apocalypse, man. And I'm going to make $1 million.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think we'll get, like, in the years to come, we'll get designer-ish. Sorry, that's messing that word up. But we'll get designer with our protective gear, and we will work on getting like an inner layer that is more conducive to wearing it for a long period of time. Because I was just wearing a bandana the other day to go to Walmart, and after like an hour, I was like, this is really not comfortable, and we could do better. And I know that there are like different cloth material that people were working on that would dissipate like sweat and things like that when you wear it, and make your skin cooler. And so that all that kind of technology is going to just come to the forefront during this time, I think.
Now, before we go to Patrick's comment there, I wanted to acknowledge that and say that what I heard from Matt is really important, that we don't just treat the people who are testing as just crazies, which is what's happening a lot. It's just that people are just making fun of them and things like that, because these are people who see a different reality on the ground where they are, and they're coming from their perspective. And I think we need to acknowledge that there is a different perspective that is valid, and also be able to talk to where those perspectives are flawed, right? Because everybody was like that before we had anybody who was dying from COVID-19 in our own communities or in our own families or in our circle of friends. Everybody was kind of skeptical, might not get here to the United States, might just stay over there in China. And then, might not really affect us, only affects people in the big cities. And now in my prison population, we had over 100 inmates who were tested positive, over 100. And in our official county statistics, it was still only 3, because they don't put those inmates, they don't put prisoners in the official statistics where you live. So everybody should go and check their own prison populations. You have to literally go to the prison website to find this out, unless, you're paying attention to a local reporter who's doing the right job. And then so, the reality that you think is real in your community may not be real, because you're not getting all the information from the official people that's supposed to give you this information. They have political agendas also to reopen the state. Like in Texas, I think this oil crisis must be really weighing heavy on a lot of people, because the oil industry is huge here, And I think if people actually knew that there is an alternative, there's an alternative to flooding our hospitals. Like they literally had to transfer they didn't transfer all 100, but they transferred about 70 of these prisoners out to a different county. And so what? Now this is some other county's problem too, right? And plus all the officers that are going in and out, they don't all live here with us. And so the people down in that other county is now complaining, hey, you did this without telling us. Hey, prison systems don't tell you when they transfer people. But if they had come out into our community, because prisons do not have hospital beds to take care of 100 people. Our regular, our actual community.
They're like releasing prisoners too. Aren't they releasing a bunch of prisoners right now too?
In some states where they know that the prisons haven't been infected yet, they need to release them before they get infected. And so some states are doing that. But if you're already infected, you can't really release them anymore. You have to take care of them now. And so
There's
100 prisoners going out to a local hospital is going to inundate your local hospital immediately. They don't have
But
that.
there's the
They don't have that
asymptomatic
ability to take
people,
care of them
too.
in prison.
There's
I'm sorry, I missed it.
There's the asymptomatic people. You can't even tell if they're sick. So that's another issue.
Right. So the officers that didn't know that they were getting possibly sick from the prisoners before they discovered it have been going in, when they go home, their families, they might, stop by a grocery store and pick up food or whatever. And in the meantime, they're doing all of this without having taken their clothes off, without having washed, right? And they didn't know that this was happening until, the tests they don't happen until 5 days after somebody's already sick. You're not going to even show symptoms until a certain amount of time has passed. And then if you give you a test, then it takes another 5 days to get the test back, maybe another day to get the official, numbers. And so 12 days later, you have a case, So, this is very difficult. And we have to know that UBI is an alternative. And we have to get that information out as quickly as possible. That's very unifying. That takes care of people from the economic fallout, and it takes care of people from the virus. It takes care of both types of calamities that we're experiencing.
Okay, so
Yes.
I'm going to ask Matt first. Would you ever run for political office, Matt?
I was gonna have you answer first since you were being hard on me, but I see you've already.
But I beat you to it. So you then I'll answer.
I don't know. Maybe. I'm kind of young right now. I'm only 20, so.
So that's a definite maybe from Matt. So
I don't know. I think I've said a lot of dumb stuff before, Daniel. Like I feel like I get easily canceled. Like you do the Oppo research on me, I'm done.
Okay. Well, you have talents to go beyond your whatever gaffes you made. So
okay.
You're gonna be okay, Matt, through this time. I feel it. So I would definitely not run for any political office because before Andrew Yang, I had confidence the government is not the solution for people or America. And I still believe that government doesn't really help when it comes down to it. I was hopeful for a moment because of Andrew Yang that government maybe could be an answer, at this juncture. And so I was all in to see if that would work. It's like, for me, it was Plan D, and I was like, okay, it looks like Plan D is happening, so let's jump on it. But I still believe that entrepreneurship and just Americans driving their own path is the best solution for everybody, and you can't rely on the government to help you out or anything. So, I mean, take the resources when you can. There's lots of different resources you can take advantage of, but for your financial well-being, even your health well-being, everything, you have to take it into your own hands. And so that's where I am with politics, and I don't think running for an office would change that. So my vision or my purpose is to create a business that will do the right thing for our communities, for our economy, things like that, and set the example for businesses everywhere.
Yeah, I think I've owned 3 businesses. I've owned 3 beauty salons during my 30-year career as a hairstylist. So, but my last one was a social enterprise. So we had a nonprofit side where we donated haircuts to the homeless and people in need. And then before I opened my salon, I started going around to all the different shelters. I lived in Missoula, Montana, and Missoula has a really great, they've just got a really great nonprofit presence there. So there's lots of shelters there. So I used to go around to all these different shelters and just donate haircuts because it is uplifting. It does change your attitude. It does make you feel better, right? And then people look at you and treat you with some kind of dignity if you don't look like a homeless guy. So
Sure.
anyway, I did that, and we did lots of fundraising and stuff like that, and then I had a for-profit side, so it was a hybrid, right? And I love it just didn't really work as well as I wanted it to but in the right environment, something that model could work very, very well. I need to tweak some things and stuff like that. I feel like a business co-op. I think business co-ops are going to become a thing where we all start kind of meshing our businesses and our nonprofits together. And if we have the right attitude and have that sense of community, then we can spread and share our skills and our experience to help people while making money to live. And then we have UBI. So there you have it.
I like it.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I
So
didn't
Matt.
want to take over Matt's interview, so I'm gonna go. And
What?
plus, I have other things I gotta do. So enjoy your time here with the girls, Matt. And I'll talk
Thanks,
to you later.
Daniel. See ya.
Bye.
Bye, Daniel. It's nice to see you for a minute.
You too.
See you, Daniel.
So
Matt,
Matt,
how
I
long do
wanted
we
to
have you
ask
for?
Yeah.
How long
I'm
do
sorry?
we have you for?
I think you said
How long?
2 hours or something.
Okay.
If it's up to you, I don't have anything planned tonight. It's
Yeah,
Corona season. We're all stuck inside.
But we can.
We're at home together. We're gang at home together. That should have been the name of our episode. So Matt, I want to ask
That's a
you.
great idea
this
moving
work.
forward.
Yeah. Now that Annette has suspended, right? How do you feel about all of us? All of us in Yang Gang, Andrew Yang for him, because I remember, in Iowa at the end, he was like doing 5 to 7 a day. I don't know if we could call it the town.
Yeah,
He
town
was
halls.
talking to so many people, one group at a time per person, and I was thinking he is just wearing himself out. I didn't like that the campaign was having him do that. I felt like he needed surrogates to country. One person trying to speak to a smallish state is just too much, and so that's why in this group we're really as many people up. Of a I don't know if you can celebrity staff, but people who are feeling confident in themselves to speak in serious engagements, or just go out and talk to people about UBI, because we a lot of people talking. What do you think?
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head, Faye, in terms of they needed to have multiple surrogates to be able to hit all the areas. And Andrew, before Iowa, he was pretty sick the whole final 17 days before the voting started. So I just remember one thing I always thought about on the campaign trail is how I felt so tired and out of energy and like crap. And I'm thinking is all I have to do is sit there and hold a camera. And Andrew, he has to be 100% on point he's doing these 5-6 town halls a day, but in between them, he's got media on his bus, doing those interviews. He's got to shake thousands of hands, smile every single time. And I didn't know how he did it. And that was how I knew he was fit to be president. But I think the thing about 2024, if he were to run, will be really interesting because he'll be starting off this is a question I've been asking people lately. Is he raised $1.3 million in the first quarter of 2019? Don't you think it's plausible that he raised $1.3 million within a few hours of announcing in 2024? I think so. I think instead of pulling out a Dave Chappelle endorsement 2 weeks before Iowa, he'd go into the race with already a bunch of celebrity endorsements. Hopefully his surrogates would be able to get on cable TV, which they weren't able to this time around, to discuss his campaign. Maybe they could do the thing they had with the hologram that they almost did. I don't know whatever happened to that, but they were gonna program Andrew to be at 100 events at once or something all across the country. They got to do that.
Now that would amazing. That really, I think, is what we needed. We needed that technological solution. But even if we didn't have that, could have gotten more people trained up, speaking points, and sent those instead of having, like one person try the entire country by himself. It was just too much.
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure on one person's shoulders, and I have no clue how he did it. But
But
it shows he's quite
you were there for that time.
Yeah.
So now that we've come to the time of coronavirus, we're still hoping to get something passed right now. Which do you think is the most likely scenario going? Or do you think that there's a chance we could get UBI passed now and bring about 2024?
I don't think they're gonna pass ultimately a UBI like a true UBI that's actually universal in nature, where there's no means testing. I think that's too easy for our government to do, so they're gonna naturally try to do something that's a lot more complicated, like means test and paperwork, and Congress, they like to make things complicated, so I think that's what they're gonna do. So, but I can see them passing more stimulus payments in the meantime. And I think that there is like a real opportunity if, enough people. Imagine if instead of protesting for reopening America, there was protests for bail out the people instead of corporations. I think that'd be effective. These things, like in terms of on Twitter, they've been pushing text UBI to 50409.
Yeah.
That sends like a letter to your Congress asking them to pass the stimulus checks. So I do think that there's a opportunity to have more UBI like checks cut, but I don't think we're gonna get true UBI until, unfortunately, I think I really only see Andrew Yang as the type of person who can go into office and make all the changes that are necessary all across the many different issues, which is kind of a sad thing because you wish you had better options, but that's where we're at.
Well, we have a lot of UBI advocates, and there were many before Andrew Yang came along, and I think there's an explosion of them now because we're trying to get more people to just say, you're an average person, but you have a group of people that you know how to talk to, and bring them up to talk about it. So I'd love to tell you more about the things that are going on, maybe in our own time. And also to see, I know that you are actually interviewing a lot of people who are like part of the UBI caucus or are coming up in the ballots for UBI. Some quite work to come and be interviewed. So you must be hopeful for the people who are running right now for office, right? Who else do you still have to talk to?
I know. I think there's a guy running in Atlanta. I'm not sure off the top of my head his name that people want me to interview. Badrun Khan. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. She's challenging AOC in New York on UBI. I think it'd be good to interview her. I'm sure there's a few others out there. I know Dan from Montana. He was in the chat earlier. I've spoken with him. I think overall, what's the best thing that someone could do right now to help Yang in a 2024 run as just like a normal person is volunteer for these congressional candidates in phone bank and text bank for them, because the amount of people that they have to reach is so much lower than the entire country, which is what you had to reach in a national election. So a lot of these people like Heidi Briones in Oregon, I'm a big fan of hers. She only has like 17,000 phone numbers that she has to hit. And if you get 20 people together to call for 3-4 hours a day for a week, you could knock all that out. And everybody, if you're stuck at home and you're bored and you have nothing to do, just sign up on one of these candidates' websites. Pick one that you really like and phone bank. I think Jermaine Johnson in South Carolina, he's a great guy. I really want to see him win.
Yeah.
And then
Me too.
if you go into 2024,
Do you have an interview with him up?
Yeah, I do.
Have an interview with him?
Yeah. Yep. So if you go into 2024,
what about that fellow who is challenging? Is it Mike Breuer who is challenging?
Yep.
Is it Mitch McConnell?
Yep.
In Kentucky.
Yeah, we've interviewed him as well, and he's probably going to be coming back on the show at some point, very soon. Well, not very. I don't know. It depends how you define very soon. Next few weeks. But I think
both him and Scott, who is actually his senior advisor or something like that on policy, right?
Yeah. He was appointed as economic advisor, and I think why is it so important to put in these candidates in besides just it's flashy and cool to have UBI candidates in Congress? No, it's because then if Yang enters in 2024 again, it's all part of the thing is he can come out instantly with 20 members of Congress endorsing him, and they were all part of the UBI caucus from 2020. And hopefully we're even more impactful and more prepared, and we have more people running in 2022. And if we going to get them into Congress, it'll put all the more. It'll be you want to be the Bernie 2020 after Bernie 2016. That's kind of what you want to do with Yang, except not lose to Joe Biden. So.
Well, we're talking about the possibility of Biden only having right. He said he was only for one term. And
I believe so.
If we get Trump, he's only going to have this term. So either way, 2024 is going to be possibly a change up.
Yeah.
But without going that far into the future, what about the fact that never got any endorsements this last time around? Which really, I was really surprised when I go on Ballotpedia and it literally showed that he didn't have any members of Congress endorsing him.
Yep. And it's disappointing because we see this guy who has such great, fantastic ideas, but nobody wants to take a risk and put their political capital on a guy who's the random man who ran for president and he has no chance or whatever. They want to. It's a popularity contest in terms of because you want to endorse the person who wins. That way they like you, and you can be like, oh, I was one of your early endorsers. Make me part of your administration. Blah 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 blah. Which is why it was cool that there were people like not in Congress, but like Marcellus Wiley, for example. He's a former pro football player, and he still does I think a show on Fox Sports. And he came out like a year ago came out and support Andrew Yang. And it was like Elon Musk. I think he came out and as much as he could with all worrying about his shareholders and stuff, saying I support Andrew Yang. But there was nobody actually in it that actually inside the DC bubble, if you will, that wanted to put their neck out on the line for someone that I think we all agree had the best ideas out of everybody. And hopefully that won't be a problem in the future because we'll step up. And that's ultimately what we have to do. Andrew always said, you have to bring a wave crashing down on Washington. And it starts from the ground on up, the people on up. So it's up to us, the people.
I agree.
So
since we brought up Biden, wait, I have a question. Or a comment that I want to read that relates to what we were just talking to. So what are the odds if Biden does not make it to the November elections? What can happen then as for not a nominee to go against Trump? Just asking because I saw Biden today in an interview and he was coughing a lot and not looking good. Yeah. I've been saying this too. What if he gets the Rona and he's out? What do we do? Couldn't Andrew unsuspend and just swoop right in? Is that possible? Or how would that go like in reality? In reality, if Joe dropped dead before November, what would happen next?
Yeah. Well, I think that there is, I don't think it's necessarily likely, but I think there is a possibility of what you just said, of something happening with Joe, whether it's from coronavirus or just, you realize by the debates that maybe he doesn't have the mental, I don't like being on I don't like being like one of the online psychologists, but I think it's pretty clear that he's progressively getting worse, which is a sign of clear decline. But I think ultimately, I don't think that would put Andrew in a position. I think like either two things would happen. Either Bernie would come out and be like, hey, look, I had the second most delegates. I was the second choice. Pick me. I don't think the establishment would go for that. So I think ultimately they would install one of these governors that's been getting all the press coverage lately. Like Cuomo is the obvious.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately where they go. I think Andrew's he's not enough of their guy yet. But he's working on it.
So
all right.
Another thing that I'm seeing that that's why I kind of wonder about the 2024 run. Like, despite his popularity, he would have to have like the kind of personality that Trump does, where he's like, I'm popular and I'm going to take this no matter what you think. I think Andrew is a player. He wants to be part of the team and wants to be pro-social. And so, if the team is saying you're the outsider and we're not going to back you, I don't see him just stepping out and saying I'm going to anyway with my supporters. And, so I kind of feel like with the 2024 coming, even if we were going 2024, Andrew's supporters, we have to probably wishes and into the party and become the party. We have to become the new face of the Democratic Party for this to really work, because we haven't been, as we're not like in the room with all these people, and there's Democrats have been in there for years, working on. They're the ones running the polls, they're the ones running all the, and they're like, who are these, arts who never even join us? They're just out there, talking. And they're not actually doing the work. So I'm wondering, how is that going to work?
Yeah, well, I think ultimately it's up to Andrew to build those connections to where the media takes him seriously in 2024 and the establishment takes him seriously. And then if that happens, the people will take him seriously. And I think if you look at it in terms of the past 2 months since he's dropped out, if you had told me that he would have Humanity Forward being tweeted out by Hillary Clinton, lover or hater. I think most people don't really like her, but or Stacey Abrams, who is being considered for Biden's VP choice. He's going to be on Joe Biden's podcast next week, which will be a really one-sided conversation. But I think he's doing a good job, and then and he's got this gig at CNN now, so he's working the connections from there. And ultimately, if he can build up all the relationships, they're going to be there. I think.
Are we supposed to wait for him? I think that's what happened during the 20 was everyone coming to lead and let everything and do all the and it's like I think we need a lot more behind him.
Yeah.
So follow the leader.
Yeah, well, so from the grassroots side, I think that's an excellent idea in terms of instead of yanging someone, that's not a word. UBIing doesn't sound quite as good, but I don't know. Just at the end of the campaign, every single person I saw, if I was in Iowa or New Hampshire, I had to bring up Andrew Yang because I was. Again, insane. So, people could do the same thing with UBI. Like, just start up a conversation with someone about how you're doing with your job or whatever, and be like, hey, by the way, have you ever heard of this idea, universal basic income? It's kind of like that $1,200 check you just got in the mail, and people will be like, oh yeah, I love that. We can all start from there.
Well, I hope so. even people who know me for a long time and people I talk to like on a weekly basis are still asking me questions like, what is BI?
Yeah.
How is that possible? You know me for this year and you don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just today, I kind of got into it with one of my friends. She's a friend in real life, and then we're friends on Facebook, but she's rather argumentative and she's never done any research. Let's say she's a low information non-voter. She is an older lady that has never voted. She told me before that she's never voted and she never intends to vote. But she is freely supplying her opinion about politics, which she has done little to no research on the topic that she's speaking on. So it's like really, really frustrating, right? And she said, she's just, people just say things. They just say the stupidest things. I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, please do us all a favor and, YouTube Andrew Yang. Like, God, I've been talking about it now.
I think
every day.
I think
for over a year.
Yeah. So I think that you can't discount the importance of her opinions, even though she doesn't vote, because she talks and she likes to talk. And the talking is really important. What Matt has been doing, is really important, even though he's not running office himself. And, like that you have might pale in comparison to how many people's, minds you might be influencing. Go about your everyday life, just talking to people about your own opinion. So politics is so much more than just that one vote. Between now and 2020, there's so much work to do. Every day you could think of something to do.
Yep, absolutely. We don't have any time to waste. That's for sure. So
that's why you've stayed with us.
Yeah. No, I like doing these little like live stream things. They're fun.
Yeah. So Matt, what kinds of things are you involved in? Because I know there's so much going on. Are you involved in any of these volunteer types, like the Yang 2020 Slack? Who just picked a new name for themselves?
Yeah. What is that? What was that? I know they did something with like all the Yang Gang regional organizers or something. What was that about?
Yeah, well, the Yang 2020 Slack has been around for a while, and now that Yang has suspended, right? So we need to move on from that name because 2020 is done for us in terms of politics. So they're picking a new name, and they came up with one which I don't want to announce yet because they announced it. I'm kind of disappointed in that process, so I'm going to avoid talking about it today. But they have a lot of they've been doing a lot of polls. They've been to sort of they're of a lot of YGRO in the past that were kind of regional organizers that were recognized regional organizers, and they just picked leadership, and they have a system now where they're going to revolve every 3 months, probably get some new blood in, and then let some of the people relax and back to resting.
Okay. Was that
So
was that a part of the thing where they had like voting on like the board members or something?
That's right. That's
okay.
right. And I'm hoping to get some of them. I want some of them over here how to use because it's very difficult to use. But they also took my suggestions that it is difficult to use and everybody's to be, have a hard time also doing Slack along with all this other social media. So they're going to try to make it more accessible in the future. I'm looking forward to some of those changes. But what kinds of volunteer things do you participate in now, if any? I don't know. Doing a lot of work on your.
Yeah, I'm pretty focused right now just on like the Zach and Matt show. Just trying to figure out what it is that the world or the Yang Gang wants to see, because now like there's everyone's inside, so there's not anything going on really. There's no campaign to cover. I'm sure Yang would be doing like UBI rallies right now, but part of the whole reason why doing UBI rallies is because we're in this whole situation where you can't do UBI rallies. But one thing I'm doing that I think is kind of cool is I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier. I think I did. No, I don't think I did. On Monday, we're launching this new show on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Tentatively named The Matt Show, just because it's going to just be me. But we're going to have a new guest on every single episode. And our first guest on Monday at 1 p.m. will be Andrew himself, ironically on the same day that his podcast comes out. So that'll be pretty cool. Looking forward to it. And I would
use a different word for that. I would call that coincidentally or synchronistically even.
Yeah. It's a funny coincidence. So I'm kind of like just working on that, trying to make sure, I don't flop my interview with Andrew and whoever else I have on after. We have some exciting guests that we're working on. So
have you had, do you feel you have a direct line, Andrew, when you to talk to him or how were you able to invite him to your show?
I just reached out and they were interested, which I appreciated. A lot of people, they think like that I'm like, people like DM me like, hey, can you tell Andrew like this? And I'm like,
right.
I've never actually spoken with Andrew for like longer than a minute before, but I'll try to tell him next time. No, I won't. But no, Andrew's an extremely busy guy.
Do you reach out to him by Twitter? Do you reach his campaign person? Who is the campaign people reach out to?
They have someone on there who was on their like advanced team. Now he's part of Humanity Forward, and he helps coordinate on things like scheduling interviews and stuff like that. So that's a Conrad, if you know who that is.
No. We're not that well connected.
I know he's on Twitter. You gotta follow him. He's a impressive young man.
We feel that we have been very much like what do you call it? Paralleling the campaign because we were the independent expense people, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
But so everything that we do, especially if you're a content creator. Early on, because I was brought into the team a little bit late, but I know like if you're a content creator, they kind of like didn't want to talk to you because if you talk to them somehow it was violating some sort of campaign issues, campaign finance issue. But I think that's over now, and so
I don't feel that way anymore. For a while, it felt like there was a kids table and that's where we sat, and then there was the grown-ups table and whatever, but I don't care. I go live all the time. We do spontaneous live streams. I'm like so comfortable with it that
those are the best.
I don't even care. Yeah,
but yeah, they're definitely
they're catching up because now it's coronavirus.
Yeah, I definitely. I've heard what you just said, Annette. I've heard that echoed before. Like in terms of, it felt like there was like, the people who are like, campaign veterans and insiders, and then the people who were kind of just like on the grassroots side felt like a little disrespected, perhaps. So I know that's like one.
Invisible is more what I felt.
What was it?
Unacknowledged.
Yeah. Maybe underappreciated.
Yeah, because when we first started Yang Gang Report, the page, we were trying to create an actual like Yang news channel using content created by the Yang Gang. So Yang Gang content
including like your show possibly.
Oh yeah. Oh no. So we had a prime time we had time slots. We had a spreadsheet. I spent many, many months. I probably spent hundreds of hours filling out these spreadsheets for, I don't know, forever. And so there was like a set time slot that was like Paget, Zach and Matt, Problem Solver, Nerds for Yang, Mindful Skeptics, Kai Watson. And then, you know, it went from like 5 p.m. to like 7 or 8 p.m. was the prime time channel or shows. And then I went to then I'd go, like we're friends with Ariel. So like there were people that we're friends with that I would make a point. I probably have easily 100 Yang Gang channels that I'm subscribed to. I don't know. Wow. I've never counted. A lot. And so I would just go down my subscription list, and whoever had a new video out that I hadn't shared yet, and I had a system where I tracked it, whether I had shared it or not and whatever. And like it turned into this full-time data entry, network programming job for me. And it was kind of fun, but then it became like really heavy because I was putting so much into it, and like, you know, like I just wanted like to be acknowledged. Yeah. It was just it really bummed me out, you know?
That definitely makes sense.
I remember one day when Annette got a retweet or somebody answered you. Was it Zoltan? Zoltan answered Annette, and Annette was like, he talked to me. A candidate actually talked to me. We had never been like talked to by Andrew Yang, so we were like, wow.
Yeah. Andrew never answered me or noticed me or anything like that. And then other people are like, hey, Andrew, can I get a follow? Just like out of the blue. And he's like, sure. And I'm like,
just luck of the draw. Luck of the draw, and what tweets,
and
pops up.
Vermin Supreme retweeted me also, and I was elated. I was so excited about that. I was like, thank you for noticing that I exist. Thank you. Like, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think just
excited to have you here, Matt.
No, thank you again for having me on. I think it's important. I think a lot of the most important work goes unrecognized. Like Andrew talked about this, a lot of the most important work from an economic standpoint goes unrecognized in terms of society. Like, you know, stay-at-home parents, they're not recognized. And it's kind of the same thing in things like you want just so many people do a lot of good work behind the scenes, and there were so many people in the Yang Gang who did amazing work and never got any of the publicity that maybe people like myself and others have gotten. So thank you to both of you and everyone in the chat who's putting work on this campaign, because a lot of people gave up everything. So
I actually a moment like this the other day when somebody was asking, oh, how did he finally get Martin Luther King to talk to him and have this, where they went, live together or something like that. And I literally just answered back, well, because I told him to, because I was one of the few people who went on his Twitter, right? Oops, we lost Matt for a minute. Well, I guess I can still tell the story of what's happening on the screen. It looks different than usual, Annette, when we won. Okay. Wow. What's going on the screen? Do you?
I don't know, but here.
Oh, here we go. Here he is.
Burke felt inclined to rub it in my face that Andrew Yang follows him.
How nice. Oh, Burke. Well, I was going to just say that, I actually went on MLK the Third's Twitter. I went back a year and I went to forward it, I went back in time and forward, and I posted on his tweets I replied to him. I had been trying to carry his father's torch for him, and I posted all my pictures about, the parade that I went to, where I dressed up my own car, and Zephyr was in the car being cute, holding up the poster, and I ran around behind the car, passing out Martin Luther King. Lucy, the Martin Luther King behind me. I was passing out the name cards with Andrew Yang on the other side, and I literally passed it out all over my town. And I chased the parade. I mean, I was going left to the left side of the street, then I went to the right side of the street, and I'm a big girl. I was out of breath, and the parade like moving on without me. So, but I feel that it helped that, to raise awareness that the gangsters are ones that are really carrying the torch. That the UBI really is the same thing as what Martin Luther King had talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think why did MLK the third and Yang not talk during the campaign? I think it's because there was a campaign going on, and that's why when Andrew said when he's suspended, ultimately that it will make things like more flexible because he'll be able to do things that you can't do when you're on a campaign. We've already seen that happening. I'm really amazed with everything that's going on with Andrew in terms of what he's doing. Like just today, he was. Yeah, I don't know if either of you saw it, but he had like an hour, 15-minute conversation with like Tom Perez, the DNC chairman, and he's like, Andrew's it could just be lip service, but he's like, Andrew's 100% right on automation. Andrew did so well because of his integrity, and it was just it's like it's great.
Well,
wow,
I don't know.
Wow. We're going to be watching for it coming out on your channel.
Oh, okay.
Are you going to be putting that up?
I haven't decided yet because they uploaded it to YouTube and it creates like a gray area where I'm not sure if they uploaded it, but their video is only getting 600 views and has more dislikes than likes. So maybe I should upload it. I'll be thinking about that.
All the stuff that we want to watch is pretty much anytime Andrew is, I think.
Yep. So there was I did upload a clip of it earlier, a clip from it. One of the students, they asked him if politics corrupted you, Andrew, and he gave I think a really good answer. Something that really just bothers me when people are like, oh, Andrew's like a sellout, or oh, he's only doing this. People when he was running, he'd be like, oh, he's only doing this for a cabinet position. Oh, he's just doing this for publicity to help sell his book. And it goes back to he had that 17-day bus tour. I'm 5 days into it. I'm half asleep, can barely keep my eyes open. And, I look at, I'm literally up there, the press is all around him. He's surrounded by press and they're asking him these hard hitting, sometimes disrespectful questions. I'm the way I feel right now, I would want to just punch the reporter in the face. And Andrew gives a calm, collected, smart answer. Just always has the same, very cool, calm, collected temperament, and it impressed me a lot. So,
can you paraphrase what do you think?
Very quality about him, that's one thing I do really appreciate about him. That he presents himself. One of my favorite sayings goes like this: I can't control how I am perceived, but I can control how I am presented. And the way he presents himself, there's not too many other ways that you can perceive him to be, so.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. He embodies that.
Do you paraphrase what he answered, or?
Oh. To the question, yeah. Well, so he kind of he at one point he mentioned, he was like, I was away from my. I think he gave a.
Uh-oh.
Look.
So I wonder if the background is partly maybe he has his own account with StreamYard. What do you think?
I don't know.
It's basically the way I'm live streaming. The camera has
Bless you.
to be recording the whole time, and the memory. Otherwise, it turns off after 5 minutes automatically. The camera, and there's no way to fix that setting. And unless you're recording, and the memory card's full, so it's not recording anymore, and it'll just shut off after 5 minutes. It kind of stinks, but you got to.
Okay. Well, we'll know. At least we'll know. So.
But
you said that he was answering the question, and he said that he had been.
Yeah, he gave a lot. He gave like a lot of just talked about kind of like the Yang-isms that you would expect. But the thing that really struck me and that I was like right on was he mentioned how he was away from his family for 2 years, and you're like sitting in a. He used the example of like a Best Western in Iowa, like on FaceTime with your wife, and like, you don't do all that for a publicity stunt. Like, you don't do 5 town halls a day. You don't do more events than any candidate did in Iowa, which was what Andrew did. He had the most events of any candidate in Iowa the whole cycle. If you're just in it for yourself,
right.
And with how you go on Twitter and under every single Yang tweet, there's dozens of people being like, "You sold out, you're evil," and
yes.
Which is just.
That's not.
You could call them the.
I have some concerns about. I have some concerns about changes that might make, which I also did call out, because as Yang Gang, I am for the UBI mainly. Okay, so if I've seen Andrew several times leave the UBI playbook and allow, for example, when he became the philanthropist at this moment. I know a lot of people really money and appreciate him for doing that, but that also I feel like he doesn't quite have the intent of UBI down completely, because he is missing the point that we don't need somebody at the top kind of letting us know who is and who isn't trustworthy to receive money. And so that's what I've called him out on, and I don't know that if you've ever heard me or not. When things like that happen, he's human. It's not that I'm support him anymore, but if he's not the best person to speak about something, like sometimes on the Asianism thing, I'm like, well, if you're not going to go up there and say the right things, maybe let somebody else talk. I feel like sometimes it's like sometimes he's definitely missed the mark for me. So
yeah, well, that's one thing. We all, I think, really admire Andrew and look up to him. Even just as like a role model. And but you got to remember, at the end of the day, he's just a regular human guy like the rest of us. He's not perfect. He's gonna make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. But people, I think, just gotta try to have as much faith as you can in him and in his integrity. And even if you see him like, I don't like a lot, like some people were unhappy that Hillary Clinton like tweeted about him. You got to just trust that Andrew, at the end of the day, he is like non-ideological, and he's going to work with anyone who he thinks can help pass UBI and et cetera, et cetera. And he's going to make mistakes along the way. And we definitely, as the Yang Gang, have to hold them accountable, because that's our jobs too. Blindly following someone isn't wise.
I think Paget KG also asked you about that. And here's that comment by Sass. Was perfect on the Asian volunteer thing. I don't know what that means, but I don't think, if you're at the op-ed, I don't think so.
Yeah. I think that's what they mean.
Yeah, some people, a lot of people disagreed with the op-ed. Others agreed. Yeah. And then there were people like me who were like, I'm staying out of this one.
Yep, I would.
Exactly. But he's being called to, talk on all kinds of subjects. Yeah.
But
what I'm excited about next, we lost Matt for a minute again. Oh, I don't know whether to wait for him to come back to start. So, because I don't want him to miss this part. Okay, you can hear us.
Still here.
Okay. So we wanted to say, so what I'm pretty excited about is he is probably going to get that chance before a congressional committee and talk about things.
Yeah.
And we're hoping that he brings with him some people who are living in poverty and some other, of course, Scott and other people who really have their heads screwed on tight on this UBI and really understand what it's about. That's all the information. I mean, Andrew presented us with some pretty good information. There are people who've been doing it longer than him. And so we want to hear from some of them too. So that's why I'm hoping that Andrew doesn't send himself as the end all of this particular moment, that he can also bring with him some of the some other people.
Yeah, you're referring to Tim Ryan, I think, invited him to testify, maybe. Yeah, that would be really cool to see. I want to see.
So we're hearing that it is really going to happen. So we hope that it does.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I also think the DNC should give him a slot to speak in at the convention.
That's what JB's been saying too.
Yeah. Do you know how that? Do you know more about the format?
I just know that the conventions, they're over like 3-4 days, and they'll have a huge lineup of speakers all across the party. But it can be like a really influential. You're speaking directly to the party, directly to the party establishment, directly to the party base. And I know Obama in 2004, he has a very famous speech that he gave at the DNC convention that summer, and a lot of people saw it kind of as a launching point from him just being, he wasn't even a senator yet. Actually, it was right before the 2004 election. So he had just won his primary. He was kind of new on the national scene, exciting. And then he gave this speech that kind of, put him at the forefront of the party. And I think it'd be cool to see Andrew have a similar type moment. And I think I think it'd be very disrespectful if the DNC didn't give him a spot, because I don't think there's a lot of people who have done what he's done in politics. So
did Tom Perez acknowledge that
yeah, he actually did.
Okay.
Well,
good.
he mentioned how kind of referenced I forget the exact quote, but he was saying how. Not many people. There was a reason that Andrew was able to get all the way to New Hampshire, while big names like Kamala Harris dropped out before the December debate. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
Good.
The road is very, very, very difficult, and Tom Perez would know since he was putting all the hurdles in there.
Exactly.
And still being supported.
Yeah, that's like the weird dynamic about what happened today.
He was like, "This is a word adversary,"
So
all right, so here's that feels like a good segue into this next topic then. So it's Biden and Trump, and they're like the Yang Gang, everybody, the Bernie people, everybody is just like in disarray, right? Because so many people dislike Biden. They are anti-establishment. Biden this, Biden that. I don't like Biden. I do not want to vote for Biden. I have made that abundantly clear multiple times. But then, and I don't necessarily want to get so much into the vote shaming aspect, because we just had that conversation the other day. But like people will just like on you, and that part is really frustrating. But then like I'm on Twitter and I'm on Facebook, and I see all of these people that are never Biden, and I'm like, okay, like what if all of the never Biden and never Trumpers actually literally got together and all came together to, like, could we propel a third party candidate in? Or could we create a write-in campaign for Yang, or whatever? Like, is that a possibility? We'll let him think
Matt will
about that.
probably answer when he's able to get his video back on, but but for us, for me, obviously, I've already laid in on that, and I feel like the problem is that Andrew himself doesn't seem all that. He's not going to go opening right now. He didn't go smoothly, and he's already endorsed Biden. It's tough. Here's Matt.
Yeah.
I'll let him answer.
Yeah, well, I think it definitely would be nice if we could have ultimately like a real third party movement in the United States. I don't see it happening like anytime soon in a realistic time frame, just because we're so divided and polarized, and so like it seems like the system's designed to kind of keep everyone arguing and fighting and not allowing the people to get together and make a real move in like a third party direction. I mean, there's more registered independents than there are registered Republicans. There's more registered independents than registered Democrats. So ultimately, the people who aren't part of the party is bigger than the people who are in the party. But we've just been in this two-party system for so long, and I do think Andrew is like 100% committed to making sure that Trump doesn't get into office. But what I respect about Andrew is he's already said it. He's like, look, like 42% of my supporters said that they aren't going to support the Democratic nominee. I don't think everyone's going to listen to me. And he hasn't been like, hey, Yang Gang, you better vote for Biden. And
right.
I think so. That's something to appreciate about Andrew's approach. I know there was like a video on the Hill last week. It was like Bernie Sanders shames his supporters, and this is like the Hill, so they're very pro Bernie if they don't vote for Biden. So we were talking about a little bit before the show, but definitely like I found the idea of like lecturing someone over how they use their vote is very obnoxious. And you have your own vote, so like worry about what you're gonna do with it. And if someone,
it's ineffective.
You could try to have a good, like you can have a discussion with someone, but when you start going to like, oh, you're gonna be the reason that Trump gets reelected and all these bad things are gonna happen, and it's all your fault, and you're a terrible person, that doesn't help anyone. So
and again, to me, it's like so much more than just your vote, and it's not fair that don't downplay the importance of how people really feel when they vote. Even if they don't vote, they are talking to their families. They're still part of America, and it's the same thing. Like when people say when they talk about the vote, that's just one tiny moment in this a whole year of trying to get somebody elected, of donations. People are donating like weekly or monthly, or people have to events, attending meetings. To say that all of this time and effort, is not as important as that one moment at the ballot box. I think there's just so much more to democracy. One of the things that I feel really sad about this year is that practically everything I learned about democracy has really just, has not been good. I haven't learned positive things about democracy. Would you say that you've learned some good things so that I can hear about them?
I wish I had good news for you on that front. I think kind of like before being part of the Yang Gang, the gang movement, I already didn't have a lot of faith in the system, and I think I have less faith now. So again, it's like,
so you're with me on this, huh?
Yeah, I don't. And I think that's one thing Andrew should really prioritize democracy reform, because I think he was actually maybe the strongest candidate on that. Some thought it was Bernie. I don't know. I didn't think Bernie wasn't even for congressional term limits, because a course that goes against his own interests. He would have been out of Congress decades ago. So,
So Matt, I think I saw a poll or something where you said that, list your top 3 or something like that. You listed as the number 1 democracy reform.
yep.
And I would list, I first, but you list the democracy reform.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because I just think like, how are you going to able to ultimately pass all these other policies?
How are you going to pass all these other policies if you don't reform the democracy? That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
We
going to
pretty
have
much
to do
can
that.
understand
where he
was going with that.
And we're going to have to vote in all these new UBI candidates, and we are going to have to get rid of all of the ancient ones. And I'm not being an ageist, but they are stuck in the past. That is a reality, and it is time for us to move forward. And so there's like there needs to be a generational shift in the government, and then move
I was
forward.
on this I've been on this what is it called, Gang Roundtable podcast, okay? And that's where we get like 5 people together at a time, and we go on the Discord server and we start talking about the stuff, our opinions, ideas to the table, so we can air it out and have more people hear about it and think about things more deeply. And one of the things that we talked about was that instead of left and right candidates, right now we've got these 2 parties, and to break out of that, we continue having 2 parties, but we could vote on just people's policies or their, who cares what they're running for. I think that's how most of Yang Gang feels, and probably a lot of the Bernie feel the same way. We don't really care what party you're under, as long as your policies sound correct to us, and like Andrew, his number 1 thing is he's got great street cred. The people really believe that he is a good person inside, and what he's doing is based out of his kindness and his goodness, right? Because of the way he's very moderate in the way that he talks and everything. So having that street important, like for Dan from Montana is running as a Republican, and I'm not gonna vote for Dan because Republican. I feel like if that's the best candidate, I'm going for that. If I were in Montana, a lot of Democrats would say if I were in Montana, I'd be voting for Dan. And so it's the thing in, if my Republican, party actually put up a candidate that, was going to do the policies that I wanted, I'd be going for that. So instead of actually creating a third party, maybe what we need to do is create a new type of platform. And so we talked about this on the last podcast together. And Mia Songbird actually came up with a whole a name for this new idea. We call it the empowerment platform, the empowerment candidate. Okay, which is like where the candidate doesn't stand at the top, say, I represent you, and I'm going to know everything that you need. And so you just vote for me, give me all your money, and then when elected, I'll do all the things you want. You never know. They often promise that, and then when they get into things, they get influenced by all that big money that they see flying around or whatever, or they get stuck in like the old-fashioned way of doing things. So we're talking about a type of candidate that is like what Matt is there to make the democracy and the bureaucracy work better. So we want to hear more policies like that.
Yeah.
Have you thought of any policies that you would definitely want to vote for if you could from?
Well, I think everyone here is UBI. I'm totally with you on the idea. I really don't think either of the parties are offering a good solution, and they didn't in 2016. They aren't again in 2020. It's just, again, you have a corporate Democrat versus however you want to describe Trump, whatever word fits in there. I think it's like at the end of the day, I lean like a little bit more to the right, but it's like on drug reform and prison reform, like I think the left has the better ideas there. I think like I don't know. I just I'm tired of the whole just normal like partisan back and forth, and that's one thing I liked about Andrew's candidacy is he cut through that. And what I call it is I call it the humanity first platform. You know.
So would you say, like, for example, democracy dollars would be your number one reform, or the ranked choice voting, or what would you like to, if you see somebody putting particular policy, what kind of policy would you suggest is the best for this type of reform?
Oh, definitely democracy dollars, ranked choice voting, term limits, you overturn Citizens United, what are like the other big ones in terms of like lobbyist
like
bans,
modernize voting or something?
Yeah, like like lobbying bans, and then making like automatic voter registration. I feel like that should be.
I agree with.
I remember automatic voter registration. Do you remember that? That's where.
I think that they should package them together. Like you should have like a democracy reform package bill, and then like healthcare reform, and then like a drug reform and stuff package them all together. And then in the healthcare, we can include like the mental health care plan, plus the I really love, one of my favorites that nobody talks about very much was free marriage counseling for all. I love that one so much because there are so many families that could stay together, or couples, if they just had like some help, man.
100%.
I really love that one.
Yeah, and like all of Yang's ideas and policies, they were all like so interconnected to each other. Like a lot of people, they might hear like marriage counseling, and they might be like, well, it's a neat idea, but like, why should the government pay that? And then you actually look at the numbers and you look at the math, and you realize that if like divorce is extremely expensive, it costs sometimes tens of thousands of dollars on lawyers and stuff like that. So if you actually are able to keep families together, it's going to save the family money, so there's going to be less financial insecurity. And also like children, they're going to be living in a household where they have both their mother and their father. They're going to be living in a more stable home. And we know that 2/3 of a child's educational outcome is based on time spent at home, and things like how your neighborhood is and your family structure and stress in the household. So it's like all of Yang's ideas, it's so much deeper than just
back into that too.
Yeah.
And then like UBI is connected to almost every single one of them. Every one of them is like UBI is the center of the mandala, and then it all
starts with UBI, and everything weaves together. And I think that ultimately is actually something, it's actually kind of like a bad thing in terms of, I think one issue with Andrew's campaign is it was very hard to explain to people in very short, like, you have 45 seconds at a debate to explain your policies, and people are like, $1,000 a month sounds nice. How do we pay for it? How does it work? And then what I notice is, just from like my time that I spent in Iowa knocking on doors and canvassing, is they would say that, like, I like Andrew, I think he has a lot of good ideas, but I'm just not sure how the $1,000 a month works. And it really, sometimes it took a good 30-minute conversation for them to start the light bulbs to start going off in their head. So ultimately, I think in 2024, the campaign, they're going to have to find a way to package down Andrew's very complex and interconnected policies into a way that's really, people can grasp quickly these concepts. So just one thing that to think about.
That's why the UBI is like so important to me, because nothing else really works out that. I mean, everything else that we're talking about, we can limit the terms, or we could do like ranked choice voting, but if you still have this popularity contest and you just put up people, and these people, they're not signed, like right now we're having a problem where, we have elected leaders who aren't scientists, they're not economists, they're not studied up on a lot of things. They may have their heart in the right place, but what if they just don't understand coronavirus? They can't understand the numbers of it. Like, I know people in the United States. Ooh, I'm sorry, my alarm's going off because it's about time to go out howl. Howl at 8 p.m. You guys know about that?
I do not. But we don't. I don't actually hear anything.
Maybe Annette can tell you why I'm turning this off.
Why is it being turned off, Annette?
I can't figure out how to turn off my alarm.
Oh, now I hear it.
I don't. Everybody goes outside their house into their front yard or on their porch or whatever at 8 p.m. wherever you are, and you howl.
Oh.
You just howl. I guess it's a thing, and like cities are doing it all.
I'm gonna have to start that on my apartment building.
Yeah, but I mean it's totally a thing.
That was tough. So yeah, it's like a worldwide movement now.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw I'm sure you guys saw the videos like in Italy, like the people like singing from their balconies and stuff.
Yeah, it's like cool. That.
Yeah.
Gotta keep that.
So it's a thing in the United States, started in Colorado.
That's
totally interrupted what I was thinking about, but I can't remember where I was, so I'm gonna give up on my last thought. Oh, I was thinking about like democracy reform. Okay, instead of just reforming democracy, because I'm gotten pretty tired of democracy now and how slowly it moves and what allow the wrong people. Let's what I want is a bureaucracy that listens to me, right? So now you've got these you've already set up organization, right? That's supposed to give money to people. How about we that bureaucracy to have a little more power to listen to what people need and respond to that. So give them powers to, like during an emergency, give out the money faster, or, do like have, for example, the IRS. We should have some sort of policy that says IRS has to make their forms short enough for us to actually answer these tax forms within a certain amount of time. For example, so there's actually log like how much time they spend at the D, and we talk every year got to cut that time down, so that things are more convenient for people.
Yeah,
or, I mean, like I want that kind of.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like the average person should be able to like file their taxes pretty easily and know what they're doing. Like you shouldn't have to pay someone thousands of dollars to do it for you. The government should make it easy enough. And it's kind of like that's kind of the problem with government is they just are they like to make things complicated. That's what they're good at, unfortunately.
But I think we let Congress muck it up every year, changing the laws every year. Everybody has to redo all the tax forms, and nobody understands them, and they just get more and more complicated every year. Yeah. So there should be like, I want the kind of reform that is like about making like respecting people's time, for example, or giving the making it so that they have to take polls of the people and what do the people actually think before they make certain decisions. That kind of thing. I don't know.
Like for example. Here's a great example. I was trying to apply for my state's. I have Medicare, so I'm disabled. I get SSDI and I get Medicare, and but I don't get full coverage with Medicare. And so someone says, well, if you get your state's Medicaid on top of your Medicare, then you'll probably have full coverage. And I'm like, okay, that'd be great. So I tried to do that, and it's like freaking like 30 pages long, this application. It's like a goddamn phone book. And then I get to the end and okay, so I had them send me, because I didn't have enough money to buy ink. So I had to call them and have them mail me an application to fill out because I couldn't print one myself. And then I get it, and it's like this book. And they have already filled out certain parts of it, like my name. They knew my name. They knew my address. They had my social security number. But then at the very end, so I get through all of this. And then they wanted me to provide proof that I get social security disability. And I'm like, you are in the same
after they already had all your information.
Why can't you just look that up? This is ridiculous. And I was livid. I went and got like my medical records printed at the doctor's office. And then I was going to have to call Social Security Administration and wait for them to mail me a dang piece of paper that proves that I get Social Security to a part of the government that should just be able to click a button and see that I get Social Security. And so I gave up. I was furious. I gave up and I tossed it, and I don't, and
That
so
made
now
me-
I don't have full coverage.
That made me, Annette, that
And-
made me think of another solution, which is that
What?
they should allow more information. But the thing that people are afraid of is that the government will use that information sharing to hurt you, right? Because if they find out about your tax or something like that, then they might call ICE on you if you also be here, not on the right immigration status or something like that. And they'll,
Right.
call like right now, people are not going to get their check because they're going to say, you already owe money for your child support or something. And so this is what we're afraid of. And we should make laws that may, information sharing for convenience, pay without, right, allowing them to enforce things on you by sharing information. That would solve a lot of problems if we could make that kind of law.
Yeah.
Right.
We need to
there's no
time our
reason
talk so that we get Matt talking while he has 5 minutes to talk. There we go. We're gonna time it better so you get the 5 minutes without getting interrupted.
It's all good.
Yeah, there's no reason why all those big branches of government programs can't just be interconnected. There's just no reason. Just make one big giant. Everybody, like, you're in the system. Once you're in the system, you're in there, and they can find you.
I mean, and what you spoke on it kind of just, it goes to just show, like, it's just a complete failure of a system. If things are so hard that people literally quit the form because it's they should, what's the whole idea of these programs is to help people, so make it easy for the people to actually receive their help. And again, it's like the whole beauty of UBI is you don't have to worry about the forms and government and who qualifies, who doesn't. Everybody gets it no matter what. I think it was like Andrew had an interview on CNN today, and they had on one of the people who received $1,000 through the Project 100 initiative, and she was talking about how, like, I asked for the money on Saturday, and it showed up on my account on Monday, and I was like, yeah, like that's how it should be. Instead of, you have some people who won't even get their stimulus checks till the end of the summer because the government stinks.
Yeah, so that's one thing. People talking about, oh, we're coming down with the totalitarian state right now. I know we're reaching the 2-hour mark and maybe going a little past, so wrap it up. But I can't stop right now because there's one thing I have to say, which is that people are really terrified of registration. They're afraid to be registered, and somehow, like, all sorts of bad things will happen to you because the government has registered you now, and they could, like, do terrible to you. It's not that they know where you are in the country and who you are and all this, but what we really need is a system that limits our government in the powers to do bad things to us, but still gives them all the way to make doing goods for us convenient. All right, and that's a failure that we've been having, is that the government is too much about enforcement and policing, and it needs to be more about pure good, like just providing pure to people. Like, for example, the library is how I think about it. So the library, the pure good. Use it, you cannot use it, but it's there, right? If you go in, don't tell you which book you have to read. And this is how from school, which became kind of an institution once it became mandatory. Now that it's mandatory, there's enforcement actions that happen if you don't show up at school, or if your parent doesn't send you to school. This could, CPS could come knocking. Why didn't you send your child, even if your child sick for a month? Like, it's all these that go sour once you get mandatory enforcement involved. But if you could just a pure good, like the public library has your information, but they're as long as not allowing them, to send that information to enforcement, it's pretty good. There's nothing wrong with it, right?
Absolutely. Yep. I don't know. I just think our government's gotten away from what it's supposed to do, and yeah, that's why we all supported Andrew.
So one of the big cases against universal freedom is that fear of registration, that you would have to be registered somewhere in order to get your money. And I'm like, why are you afraid of the government doing something for you?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Everyone's like registered in some way. Everybody has a social security number. So the government knows who you are. I don't know.
Yep.
What did Annette?
Everything
heard Matt more
everything should just be attached to your social security number. And then I mean that should just, it should be like your little chip. It's like your microchip.
Yeah.
That's the topic that we could discuss.
Well, if you say that, I think people would be terrified.
Yeah,
I know, but it's just
the word
like
chip will scare people.
No, I know, but like, yes, I know it does scare people. What I was gonna say is, so since it appears that I'm going to be forced to just vote for friggin' Biden against my will, so my question is, how can we get Biden to move forward in a meaningful way? Like right now, I just feel like he's like Platitude Pete right now, and I just don't feel like he has any substance. And how do we get him to gain substance so I can vote with him with some sort of a clear conscience?
Yeah.
Do you have all the questions? Do you have all the questions ready for you already? Can people here, if they're still with us on this chat, if you think of a question you want to ask Andrew, can you suggest chat right now?
Yeah, anyone can suggest questions. I haven't finalized them all yet, but I have a good idea of like one of the ones I want to ask, and that's kind of going to be one of the questions I'm going to ask is how is Andrew going to use his whatever influence he has if Biden ends up winning and he ends up in the administration, can he realistically see himself moving the needle on an issue like UBI? I'll have it worded much better when I actually write it out, but kind of just touching on.
Will you ask him? I don't have. My question is, will you ask him my fun question, which is that can he go ahead and Mario Kart live stream with that was promised to us if we could only meet that last donation goal. We didn't meet the donation goals, just kind of went the wayside. But people like my son worked really hard all year, never had any events, and this would be really fun, I think, even for his kids to watch.
Technically, the whole Yang playing video games on stream was approved during the campaign because we had raised a certain. They basically were like, "Hey, raise a certain amount of money, and we'll do this for you. Like, make it happen." So I don't know. Rain check someday. It'll happen eventually. I'm not gonna let that.
Can you call it in? Because Cooper and I would be so excited. We would be like front row. Let's watch this.
I gotta wait and see how this first interview with Andrew goes. Because you don't want to overstretch your goodwill. Hey, Andrew, I just had you on yesterday. It was great. Let's get on and play video games. No,
you gotta strike while you have him in the room. Don't wait. So let's schedule this before it disappears again.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's certainly a good thing. I think it'd be cool, just because one of the whole idea behind it on my end was, what's a way to get people interested in this random Asian guy if they usually don't pay attention to politics? And I'm like, well, let's have him play some popular video games, and suddenly people who don't care about politics were like, hey, that guy who wants to give us all $1,000 a month is playing NBA right now. Let's watch. Oh my gosh. Oh, Mario Kart. I thought it was just a cool idea. So hopefully it happens.
Can we make it happen? I will be so excited. Ask him during a quiet time.
Okay. I'll do my best.
All right. Well, we're coming up on 2 hours, so I think this is a good time for us to say our goodbyes. It has been just an absolute pleasure having you on today, Matt. I'm so glad you came.
Yeah, me as well. I really appreciate you guys having me on. Appreciate everybody who watched and tuned in. Make sure you subscribe to Annette the Peacemaker on YouTube.
Oh.
And
Okay, so hold on. I'm going to put up our contact stuff. So if you Matt, tell us where we can find you, and it'll look like this. And then I'll copy and paste, or I'll just throw one in.
On every platform, it's just Zach and Matt Show, or it might be the Zach and Matt Show on some of them. We're on like everything: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube for sure.
Giggling in the back because he's playing Minecraft. We're doing supper.
All right, so either Zach and Matt Show or the Zach. I know it's the Zach or Matt Show on Facebook for sure. But when I hashtag you guys, if I hashtag you guys, it's hashtag ZAMS.
And Zach is spelled ZACH. There's no chance you could miss them because they've got every single great Andrew Yang, and we've watched a lot of live streamed a lot of your shows. But watch party, we as a group will sit and watch your shows and talk about it together. So we've done that a few times, right, Annette?
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for all the great questions and comments. These are always a good time. And we didn't really have any very big glitches today that I'm aware of. So no echoing or lagging or whatever. So woohoo!
It's getting better every day.
That's right. All right. Well, then, I guess that's it. Thanks for tuning in to YGRL. See you later.
Take care, guys.